don't think I ever filmed anything about the gas pedal I'm using, but it's just a universal piece of crap China thing I got. And right now it's meant to be mounted on an angled surface, and so this is just a little bit too uncomfortable for my ankle to like bend out that far. So what I'm gonna do is attach this doorstop to that, and then use this Buick pedal I got out of the Riviera to give it even a little bit more height, and then hopefully that'll be more comfortable. If you couldn't tell already, this is a very high budget restoration. We use only the finest parts around here. Got a double doorstop special going on here. I'm not proud of it, but it does save my ankle from overextending every time I want to floor it. I'm gonna cut this bottom part off, and then I'll be able to just use some self-tapping magic to attach this. And maybe it won't look as trash. Ta-da! That's a pretty precision cut, if I do say so myself. Yeah, that'll work. Yep, she's show car quality. There's still just a little bit of movement up and down of the steering column, if you can see that. So what I'm gonna do here is just bolt this horseshoe to the firewall itself, and then hopefully that'll lock it down nice and tight. While I have the front end of the car off again, I just decided to make that other radiator work and take out the tractor radiator, since I don't think that thing's actually gonna be big enough to cool this thing. I basically made it work by crushing down the tabs and then just cutting out little parts that I could screw in here and there, and it fits just perfectly. This fan I just got part of a package deal. It works pretty good. Before I put the front end back on, I did address just a few small things. I got a good engine to chassis ground here. Not having a solid ground between the engine and the frame here can cause a whole myriad of mysterious electrical problems. For example, one time that ground went bad in the Buick, and whenever I'd put the car in reverse, all the lights would cut out and all the interior electronics would just turn off. And then I'd put it in drive and then they'd all come back on. And I figured out it was because it was grounding slightly through the engine mounts, but not good enough. So whenever the engine would flex a little bit, it would get that good ground and then go away when you put the car in a different gear. I'd say about probably 80% of the time that I've had electrical issues, it's always been because of a bad ground. So definitely the first thing to troubleshoot. Other thing I've added are these two yokes on either side. And that's so when I put the fenders back on, they just slide right in here. And those yokes can kind of just hold the fenders up, so they're not touching the suspension. Obviously, the fenders were originally supported by these two pieces that bolted straight to the frame, but since this frame has been extensively modified, we'll have to make do with what we got. On the fenders themselves, I did add this little like rubber adhesive piece here, so when it slides into the yoke here, it shouldn't rattle around. I think the number of times I've done this is now in the double digits, but I do get faster every time I do it, so. Good. Well, after another hour of wrestling around with it off camera, I've got the fenders in the yokes, which is the good news. The bad news is, yeah, that's the amount of clearance I have between the pump and the fan. I think it's honestly kind of touching there, and I think I'm just gonna kind of let this thing spin and then grind down that little button on the fan there, and hopefully nothing breaks. This new radiator also has inlets for the transmission lines as well. So I snatched a couple of old transmission lines I found off the library of Turbo 400s that are sitting around, and I damn near got them pretty close to where they gotta hook up to the radiator there. I figure it's better than what I had before, which was rubber lines all the way from the transmission to the radiator. So we'll see. For seat belts, I've just got this universal 4-point harness, just for the front seats at least. I'll figure out the rear seat later. Racing harness might seem a little overkill, but I'd rather be safe than sorry, just with how light this car is on the rear. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be doing a lot of failed donuts. Got the seat belts bolted down here. They actually work pretty good. One thing I might add down the road is just one more strap that goes in between your legs, just to make sure I don't fly out of the windshield of this thing. Got the front and rear bumpers and brackets for $200 off Marketplace, so that's a lot better than eBay, which when you start trying to ship big items like this, you start ending up paying like $500-600. So I got pretty lucky with this Marketplace deal. As one could imagine, 1938 Buick bumpers don't bolt straight onto a 1935 Chevy, so I had to do a little bit of debauchery with the frame and some spare bolts. Luckily, no one will ever look at this again, and I will be the only one to know. In a turn of events that should surprise no one, the rear bumper also isn't just gonna bolt on without a little bit of custom fabrication. Chevy just has these tiny little like round holes that lead to the frame. Yeah, that's definitely not gonna fit. So my plan is to just put a metal plate here and extend this down, and that way I can just bolt these brackets right to it. Figure out just with what old scrap I got laying around what I can jimmy up here. Well, I've got the rear bumper mocked up here, and I've got those scrap pieces of steel bolted up to the frame. So now I just gotta mark where the brackets actually sit on the scrap steel and then bolt it on, and then we should be good to go. I dare say the rear bumper turned out almost even better than the front bumper. I mean, it looks like it belongs on the car, which is really all I could ask for. This car would have originally only come with one taillight here on the driver's side. I basically just bought a replacement LED face, but the lens is a little, it shines a little brighter, and these lenses on the old cars have a tendency to just shatter because they're old brittle glass. But for the passenger side, I had to do a little bit of custom work to get this. So I essentially got the taillight from a car that would have had a trunk. So I had to add a little 3D printed grommet that my friend made in here to make it point the right direction, essentially. If I just test the taillight here with my little bent power supply, both seem to be working pretty well. I still haven't quite decided if I want to have reverse lights yet. If I do decide I want them, there's these two pretty convenient little holes here where the old bumper would have come out of. I think I would just do a tiny little round white light for the reverse light there. All right, well, today it's time to see how Marketplace Mystery Engine number 2 performs. The engine isn't new, it's already been broken in. I'm not sure how many miles it has on it. My plan here is to just kind of run it for a while, get it up to temp, and see what leaks. I'm gonna laugh when I find out this radiator doesn't even hold coolant. I forgot to mention I've also got the rear end jacked up in case I messed up the shift linkage again and the car actually isn't in park when I first start it. Got my distributor pretty loose so I can run out here and time it. once I get it to idle. Get a little more time. Sorry, a little. Let's go that way. Right direction. Timing could be popping out. That was a little loose. We'll prime the carb here and try again. See, the water pump is hitting my radiator there. I think it'll grind it down enough eventually. Timing's only getting better. More? Probably. Make sure there's no transmission fluid on the ground yet. I had to stop it for a second here because my eyes are starting to burn and starting to get a little lightheaded. The magic of having a very enclosed garage. We've already learned several valuable things just in this short 5 minutes. The first is that timing mark on the harmonic balancer is over in Egypt. Yeah, it's not even close to where top dead center is. The other is these pulley bolts are kind of smacking against my radiator fan housing there. You can see where it's kind of grinding it off. I think I'm kind of just gonna have to wait it out and have it keep grinding, because moving the grill forward even, a couple millimeters is like pulling teeth on this thing. The other issue is I can't physically turn this distributor anymore counterclockwise, so I'm gonna have to figure out how much I care about this little piece of the firewall right here, because it might be meeting the end of my hammer. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna just rotate the distributor, then move all the plug wires one space forward. I'm gonna start it up again and just show you kind of what I'm looking at with the gauges here. The oil pressure's good. I'm not sure if the alternator is actually charging or not. But fuel gauge works. I still need to hook up the tachometer wire. A couple of revs. Sounds pretty good. that radiator fan is gonna be an issue, unfortunately. Those vibrations, this thing just isn't gonna spin right, so yeah. I noticed the radiator fan seemed to kind of jump out of its skin there on that last run, and then I noticed my half-ass flap is no longer attached, so that could be a slight problem. Good news is I think I can get this radiator fan out of here without taking the front of the end of the car off again for maybe the 7th time. I was able to get that old electric fan out of there with very little drama. And I've come to find out that I made a bit of a mistake. So those pulley bolts earlier were literally grinding the bearing of the electric fan. So this is now junk. I like to rationalize my stupid mistakes into positives. So what I'm gonna do is run a regular fan on here. I'm not a big fan of electric fans anyway, because you never know if it's actually going to turn on or not when your temp sensor hits 180 degrees. I also don't want to cut up these wires and resolder them for the 3rd time. Sorry, Ford, but that's where that belongs. I've got plenty of clearance from the radiator to the pulley here. It's just, it might be kind of a smaller fan in order to not cut up my wires. For a short-term solution for the fan, I just got this Flex fan, just a 15-inch diameter, so it's compact enough to fit in there. I did get a reputable brand from the USA because I've heard the Chinese version of these types of fans will actually throw blades off and wreck hoods and stuff, so I figured I'd get a quality product this time. In the future, I'll definitely get a fan clutch on this thing and put together a little shroud for this fan. But for now, I'm just trying to get some basic form of cooling to the engine. You know, I'm not too concerned with fuel economy of using a fan clutch at this point. All right, I've got the fan installed with a little 2-inch spacer in there. I'm fully expecting I'm gonna need to put a shroud on this thing eventually, but it's something for now. All right, I've got the cap rotated 1 interval to move this box away from my firewall, so I've got a little bit more room for timing. I also attached my tachometer wire to my gauges inside. I also realized this alternator requires activator wires here, so I think what I'm gonna do is just switch on my 1-wire alternator from that engine just to kind of simplify all the wiring in here. The new 1-wire alternator's in. I think this was a lot easier than trying to wire to the ignition and then putting in a diode and all the stuff that you have to do with a alternator that has an activator. Got our new radiator fan. I added this overflow container for the coolant. We're gonna go ahead and pop it into drive and reverse when I get it running and make sure the transmission works. And also I'll try and see if the rear brakes at least work. But yeah, hopefully after that, I'll set the car down and we can maybe try rolling it out of the place it's been sitting for the past 2 years under its own power. First time it's moved under its own power in who knows how long. So the brakes work about halfway down the pedal travel. I think I could improve them a little bit, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I've been seeing my garage look like this in 2 years. I mean, this car has just been up and down off jack stands, and really cool to see the tail end of it heading out of the garage here. I'm gonna go ahead and put the hood on this thing, and then I'm just gonna let it run for a while and see what the temperature gauge does, and then we'll go from there. So far I've seen the voltage is good, the alternator is charging the battery, the oil pressure is good, the tachometer actually works, which is pretty surprising. I thought my bullshit wiring wouldn't work there, but I just topped it off on coolant. Just gonna make sure the oil is still doing oil things here. Might not hurt to add a little bit more. We're hanging out at 180. I think that's a good sign. We definitely need some exhaust work because it's pretty damn loud. Climbed a little bit to 200, but pretty gnarly lightning storm coming in, so I might have to pull this thing back in here soon. All right, well, that's not ideal. Just ignore that, the steaming coming from the engine. That's, that's normal. It's my water neck just isn't, it's not quite sealing all the way there. Glad it was that and not something much worse. Well, we finally got the car in a spot to where it looks like it actually runs and drives. And with that happy ending, I'll end this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.